Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond Founder podcast. I'm here with another very interesting, high-energy guest today, and that is Sammy Suggs from North Myrtle Beach Heating and Air. And your husband, unfortunately, couldn't be here with us today, but you two run this business together. So we'll just dive right in. Whose idea was it to start this business? Did you guys meet and someone was already doing it? Did you do it together? What's the story?
So the story is I actually graduated from USC with a bachelor's degree in sport and entertainment management. So this definitely was not always the plan. I wanted to be a sports agent one day. Then I met my husband halfway through college and kind of decided I would find a job doing whatever I could to make money wherever he was at, because this was his lifelong dream. His grandfather started it in 1976, so he's actually a third-generation owner. He and his father actually purchased the business from his grandfather in 2016 when my husband was 22 years old.
Okay. Wow. So this is a family business that's been handed down. And so you got to...
nothing's been handed. Everything's been purchased or earned.
Purchased or earned. That's great. That is a great clarification. And so when you stepped into this picture, your husband was already working in the business?
Yeah, he's pretty much been involved since he could walk and helping bring tools and whatnot. So this was his lifelong dream. I never really thought that I would ever be a part of it. I kind of didn't really want to be a part of it. I liked having our separation. But even now that I'm such a big player in the business, we still have our separate ways of operating. And I think that's one of the things that really is one of our strengths. Okay.
And so before you maybe even met him, or even after you met him, I'm sure you had another plan for what you wanted to do.
Absolutely.
What did you want to do instead of this?
I did not want to stay here, I can tell you that. My dad was a professional hockey player, so I had this dream of being a sports agent or maybe working for the NHL one day in a big city like Atlanta or Houston, Texas, something like that. And then again, I met Nate, and he's the love of my life, and I knew that he was going to be successful no matter what he did, and I wanted to be a part of that, however that looked.
And so your dad was a professional hockey player.
Semi-pro.
Did he play semi-pro?
Yeah.
Okay. So not NHL, but what league did he play for?
Oh, this is awful. I don't know. It's the one underneath them, though. I can name off some of his teams, like the Houston Oilers, the Erie Panthers, the Erie Golden Blades, but Ron Hansis is his name. He's shocked he can Google himself. I showed him that a couple years ago. So.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had another plan. You met him, and you believed in him, which is huge. I think that having somebody to believe in you, to support you on that journey is huge. Do you think that dynamic has helped accelerate his success?
Absolutely, because he was very big and adamant on keeping everything separate, financials, he even buying a car together, buying a house together, things like that separate until we got married. So all in one summer, all in 1 month, we moved in together. He asked me to come work for him. He was acting so weird. Well, fast forward, that was June. Fast forward to December, and he proposed to me. So all that happened, within 6 months. So for him to approach me with that when he did totally caught me off guard, but it was the most humbling and most proud, one of the most proud moments of my life that he believed in me enough to step in and want to be a part of that vision with him.
What convinced you, if I can use that word, to go on that journey with him? Because even though you love him, you have all these other plans, and then you decide, I'm going to jump into this business with him, I'm going to support him, I'm going to move in with him this quickly. What do you think it was that drew you in to taking those steps for yourself?
Well, I don't know a lot of people that can balance this dynamic. So I was thrilled to have the opportunity to do it. I knew it was going to be a challenge, and it's a challenge every single day, but that was 5.5 years in. We had been dating. So I also knew him well enough to know the strengths that I brought to the table where he was weak, and vice versa. Again, I said earlier, we have a very interesting dynamic at work. We hardly ever see each other, and it needs to be that way. I love him, and sometimes I need him in the office, but I do better when he's not there, and vice versa. He's still more so technical and so involved in the field, whereas I'm the back end on everything, the administrative side.
Interesting. So I have so many questions about this. This is such a great story. Yeah. So I know this isn't a relationship podcast, but I do think relationships, not only intimate relationships, but friends, dynamics with family, all relationships play such an important role in your ability to be successful in business, because relationships can either fuel you or they can drain you.
1,000,000%.
And especially if you're very close to the people you're working every day with, like you said, not a lot of people can survive that dynamic. So what do you think it is that allows you to survive that when most people can't?
Well, let's not forget to mention, my in-laws are still a part of this too.
Okay. Yeah.
My mother-in-law does technically work for somebody else, but she was a part of the business from the beginning. She still is so helpful and resourceful for me every single day. She was willing and happy to let go of the administrative side of this to me and teach me and coach me through it and guide me through it. Never with any standards to be upheld, only with wanting the best for me because she knows that I want the best for them. So their family dynamic, that's what allows us to be successful. They give me the freedom and the space to do what I think is right. Obviously, if I question myself, I go to them for reassurance and guidance. So just relying on me to treat this as a team and a family and not just making decisions, by myself or just me and Nate on a daily basis. I think that is one of those key things, just relinquishing that control.
So someone that's just starting or they're in their first generation of building a business and they want to do the same thing. They want to be able to have their children earn. I won't say pass down, right? They want to have their children earn and take over ownership and be able to create a business that can support their family for generations. What do you think are some of the things you've found in this process about this family, about this business that have allowed them to do that? How would you tell other people that are just starting, these are the things you need to pay attention to?
It's really hard to explain it into words, honestly, when you're used to doing everything yourself, putting things in words. Like I have my girl Angela that has worked for us for almost 5 years now after I had my son. She's my right-hand girl. Even training her was really difficult because how do you just regurgitate all the things in your head that your body's trained manually to do on a daily basis, right? Relinquish that control when you can. Be there to be a support and a source of guidance for the people alongside you. And the best way for them to learn is by doing it too. Let them make mistakes. Be there to pick them up when they fall so they'll know for next time. We can't grow and evolve unless we make some mistakes. That's my opinion, is just, finding somehow some way to relinquish that control. And then as time goes on, things will get easier to put systems into place, to put procedures into place, routines, things of that nature. And then once everybody's on the same page, you're rocking and rolling from there.
One of my business mentors has a process he calls the 3Ds, and it's how he delegates anything. It's you document something while you're doing it. Don't just sit there and try and come up with, well, I do this and do this and do it. Just document it as you're doing it. And then when you share that with someone else, have them read the document and try to demonstrate back to you what you've done. And once they can do that successfully without you having to say anything, then you're able to delegate it with that standard operating
Document,
procedure.
demonstrate, delegate. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That is I would like some more information on that.
Sure. But it seems like with your team dynamic, you're naturally doing that already because of the way that you all work together. Even though you don't have like a name for it or a structured process or whatever the case might be, it sounds like you're already doing a version of that for yourselves. And it just reminded me of when he shared that with us.
Well, thank you. That's a really big compliment.
Yeah.
And that means a lot because it's another struggle to take over this third generational business and grow it and evolve it with today's technology standards, with today's communication standards, while also still embodying those true, small, local, family-owned and operated business ethics that basically formed our foundation. So, for example, when I say that, a lot of these other companies are having call services take their calls after hours. We are very transparent with our people up front, and we're like, hey, you're going to talk to a real person every time. We are typically not going to answer calls after 10 or 11 because we're real people and we need a break. But as soon as we get going the next morning, we're going to return your call. If you're okay with that, then we're the people for you. If you're not okay with that, that's okay too. But it's because we want to make sure our clients are treated like our family members, which is another one of our core values that has been there from the beginning that we're not willing to compromise.
That's so interesting because we know the big topic right now is AI.
Yeah.
And most people are implementing AI tools into their businesses specifically to solve problems like that for after hours where, 11 p.m. hits and, maybe somebody's scrolling on their phone, they got off late and they're trying to find somebody that can come do a job for them. And they're trying to schedule it for the next day, and most people can't answer. And so some businesses are able to serve those customers because they reach out and they're talking with like an AI over the phone or via chat or something, and they're still able to schedule an appointment or something. So how do you guys balance that approach with, like you said, this ever-evolving landscape of technology and AI? Is that something you guys are exploring, or is that something that you're like, no, that's just not the way that we operate our business?
We personally work with a lot of property management companies, for example, okay? A lot of them are implementing call services. Our policy is, especially if you're under a service contract with us, you're expressing your loyalty to us. We expect that in exchange. If these call services are taking their calls and they call out another HVAC company, that voids our contract, right? We would rather make sure that our people are taken care of, and there's always these particular little details for each and every different client that we have down to a science documented in our system. And we just don't feel comfortable. We don't feel like we've found an outlet yet that can help us continue to operate the way that we want to operate. With that being said, we have multiple outlets of communication. You know, it's not just the phone ringing. We have a text messaging line. We have emails. I monitor my emails to a fault meticulously. They are organized better than your local library, okay? I am responding to emails at midnight sometimes. That's just how my brain works. But we're also monitoring like that text message line. So there might be every once in a while, we text you back at 11 or 12 at night. We'll get you an appointment for the next day. Otherwise, it's a very soon response the next day as soon as, you know, we're not asleep anymore.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's not that you're totally blocked off to those tools. You just haven't found anything that really does it the way that your team does it.
Right, exactly. And back to the property management company scenario, you know, that happened one time with a client from this property management company. I didn't void their service contract because it's not their fault. I don't think they knew the company was utilizing a call answering service. So I'm not going to penalize them for something they didn't do. But I did have to have a conversation with our point of contact there, like, hey, you guys need to get your records in line because this is technically what I'm supposed to do for any other customer, but I'm not because this isn't that customer's fault.
That makes sense.
So communication is key in every aspect, no matter what the pipeline.
Right. And I think people appreciate that human touch still.
They do.
You know, I mean, there are
1000%.
certain cases in which it makes sense to deploy AI, almost more sense than it does a human. But I think because so many people are moving rapidly in that direction, the human touch is becoming much, much more valuable.
1,000%. And I have 5, maybe 6 trucks on the road. So my service area is limited, but also we don't want to get too big. We don't want the whole pie. We just want a piece of it. But that is because we want to continue to provide that human touch. We want to put those personalized touches on everything that we do because that's what has given us our reputation, essentially.
Yeah. Wow. Again, so many different directions I want to move, and we have so many things to talk about. We'll have to have you back for another episode.
Yeah, because
hopefully
I'm
with your husband again.
long-winded too, and that's not helpful.
No, not at all, not at all. So most of the people that we have on have gone through the process of starting the business themselves. And I think you bring a unique perspective in the sense that you've entered into a more well-matured business. And so there are probably things that you've learned operating that business that many of our guests don't know because they're not in a third-generation business. So I'm very curious to hear your perspective because the business itself isn't new, but you're new to the business world and running businesses in the sense that this is your first venture. You may have been doing it for a long time, but you weren't running businesses or anything before.
No.
So
I was barely running like my own budget, like in my household.
So when you jumped into this, I'm sure you didn't start off working in operations or like at an executive level or anything, did you?
No, but my sport and entertainment management degree was really more of a business degree with an emphasis on the sport and entertainment industry.
Okay.
And let me back up and also say, I don't know if I mentioned this. This is actually our 50th year in business this year.
Wow.
So my husband and his father-in-law have had it for 10 years. I've been a part for 9 come June. His grandparents kept everything on pen and paper. So when they took the business over, they got QuickBooks. We had something digital. But they were also operating on an iPhone group text. So every service call that would come in, we would text the group the customer's basic information. They would handwrite a bill. They'd bring me back the office copy. I'd have to manually plug it all into QuickBooks. And it was so seamless back then. But looking back then now, nothing can be more seamless than what we have now with House Call Pro, our scheduling and dispatching app.
Yeah. And you can tell us a lot more about House Call Pro because I'm very familiar with House Call Pro. I'm similar to your husband in the sense that When I was about 6 years old, my dad had me working out on jobs with him. He did construction and general electrical contracting, so he switched over to commercial work later on. And so I was always helping him on projects or on jobs and things like that. And when I started my agency years later, I exclusively worked with home service businesses. Wow. So I was very familiar with tools like Service Titan, Jobber, House Call Pro, et cetera. But you've really landed on House Call Pro, and you love them. So tell me more about your experience with them.
Well, the one thing that I did know administratively when I was brought into this is you have to have money to operate, and I like money a lot. And so that became my primary focus. Of course, taking care of the customers. I can already do that. I feel, not to toot my own horn, that I'm charismatic enough, I'm personable enough. But the money side of things was what was important. I also know that you can get bogged down with so many things on a daily basis. It's so easy to brush off these marketing calls about this software and this and that. And then it presents another challenge to me to present it to my husband and my father-in-law, who, again, we're still navigating this growing and evolving in more modern times while being used to doing things a certain way all these years.
Right.
So we were scared of the change. Change is hard. Change is scary, but change is necessary. So it was my mother-in-law actually that was like, we need to sit down with them. And I'm like, all right, let's sit down with them. Let's see what the marketing tactic is. I could not be more pleased. That was the biggest thing we ever did. And that was totally, credit goes to her.
Wow. And what do you think has been the most useful or supportive set of features that House Call Pro has given to your business?
Communication side of it is a big compliment we get from our customers. They love being notified with their appointment text messages. They love being notified that someone's on their way and exactly who it is and shows them a picture of the technician, for example. They love knowing a certain time frame that we're going to be there versus, I don't know what time today. We'll call you when we can. Because I have no idea on the group text, obviously. There's two different ways to navigate the schedule every day, too. You know, I like to see it by person because I'm not really the active dispatcher anymore. But there is that feature where you can sort it by geographic location, too. So if I'm running Little River, you know, I see this is where I'm going to start and I'm going to work my way back. It makes your operations so much more efficient, and it makes it easier for everybody involved.
Yeah. It sounds like communication. And this is like the second time you've brought up communication.
I will bring it up the whole time.
If we can teach the audience anything important, or there's one big takeaway so far, I think it's that. I think it's communication, because the way that your team is communicating with the family dynamic, I think, improves how you're able to operate. This tool improves not only your internal communication, but your communication with customers.
Exactly.
And it sets an expectation of, this is when you can expect to hear from us. This is what's going on right now.
Yep.
People just want to be communicated with.
Exactly.
Internally and consumer side. I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on how you've seen, if you have any demonstrations or examples of how communication has been the thing that's caused your team to be successful, whether that's with a customer or internally.
My guys will tell you, I'm not going to use profanity, but sometimes they probably think I'm a bitch because I'm meticulous with them about details, about knowing certain things. So even though we have this software in place, it doesn't end there. There is still work to be done by everybody. We set pretty clear expectations up front before anybody ever comes to work for us. You know, this is how we operate. Are you okay with this? Are you able to do that? If they say yes, great. But so, for example, if we're looking at the schedule and we have so many calls, if somebody's running into a huge repair when they're there for a preventative maintenance, something that should take an hour is turned into 3, they let us know, because then otherwise how are we going to know what's going on until they're actually finished, right? So that helps us prepare a little bit more too. So that's the communication part. But it also meshes in so well with organization too. It helps us organize things so that we are on target with telling people we're going to be there when we say we are. How many clients, that have said, are you actually going to come? And yeah, you're going to get a confirmation text. Once you are in our system once you get that text. Well, the last 2 companies I called, they told me they'd be here in 3 days, and they never showed up. I can't get a hold of them.
Wow.
Little things like that set you apart. The consistency, the communication, the promise, and you delivering on that promise. Those are like the hardcore, old school values that we're not willing to compromise.
And it's so, when you realize that's your competition, too, if you're willing to just show up and do good work, I tell people all the time, it's so easy to win.
Yeah.
If you're willing to show up, work hard, be consistent, and do quality work, it's so easy to win because most of the competition is not willing to do that.
Absolutely.
Most of the competition is saying they're going to be there and they don't show up in 3 days.
Exactly. Yeah. And I know one of the biggest things I have to harp on is every single one of my employees and my staff. And we have a very young staff too. So you can throw that in the mix of things on going a different direction. My youngest one is 21. My oldest one is 31.
Wow.
My husband and I are 33 and 32.
Wow.
So that's how young of a staff we have. My customers are shocked that these boys are the age that they are because of how professional they are, how polite they are, how personable they are, how empathetic they are, and how detailed they are too. And I think, again, those are skills that you really can't be taught. You got it or you don't. Mm-hmm. And go ahead and implementing that in a day-to-day basis is another challenge, and it comes so seamless for them. So I don't have to worry about anybody that I send anywhere, essentially. And that is one of the biggest flexes.
So that's more so something you look for in hiring and less of something that you teach as a team?
Well, that's something you can't really know if somebody has or not when you're hiring them.
Okay.
But we do implement a 90-day probationary period, make sure you're happy, make sure we're happy, and we go from there or we part ways, no hard feelings. You see it very quickly or you don't in 90 days. Let me just tell you that. Actually, the first week, to be honest.
Yeah.
Especially you having a contractor's background, that manual labor, you know.
Absolutely.
Juggling that alongside the physical work is substantial.
I have a friend here locally that owns an irrigation company. And former veteran, does great work. It's so hard for him to scale his business, not because he can't get customers, but because he can't get good workers.
Right.
He's had people that will come to a job, leave for lunch, and never show back up. And then he's left there to do the job, you know, with a half crew or with himself. Right. Because you said it's hard to find that in the early hiring process. How would you say, if we're speaking to a younger audience now, what would you tell them if they wanted to come work for your company? What would you tell them were some of the boxes that they needed to check or some of the things that you're looking for in someone within that first week, that first 90 days that lets you know this is going to be a star player on our team?
First of all, this isn't your normal 9 to 5. So if that's what you're looking for, we're not the place for you. This is about taking care of people and the day's done when the last customer is taken care of, essentially. That could look very different. Some days, last week, there was a couple days they were off by 3 o'clock. Going into the season we're going into, most of them will be working till 5 or 6 o'clock on a daily basis. Now, again, because we are so small, we rotate our weeknights for on-call schedules. So everybody takes a night, and then everybody takes a weekend a month. We've found that really helps not burn everybody out and also makes it fair for everybody as well. And every single one of them knows that they have the resources to if they run into an issue. It's not like you're on your own till Monday. No, it's you have somebody that's going to help you. We may not be able to find a solution until Monday, but here's what we can do for the time being. So that, just knowing the transparency that you're going to work your tail off for us, but we are going to make you feel appreciated and like a part of the family. If you give us your all, you're getting ours back.
That's great.
That's really the best way I know to explain it.
So again, it sounds like it really comes back to communication and work ethic. If you're willing to show up and you're willing to communicate during the process, that's really it.
And if you're coachable too. Some people just aren't coachable, but you have to be. Again, we're a different structure. I don't have an install team and a service team. Everybody's cross-trained. So my mornings are blocked off essentially for new installations. That's essentially our bread and butter and what makes us the most money. That also takes the most labor and the most manpower. So we try to reserve the mornings for those big jobs as well as really urgent emergencies. And then as the day goes on and kind of backs off a little bit, that's where our preventative maintenance comes in, our non-emergency calls. But still, at all times, we have to be thinking and aware of everything because you never know when an emergency is going to come in.
Right.
And we try to always give same-day service, but if we don't, it's typically next day, which is something that I have heard through the grapevine is another hard quality to find among all these different companies.
Right. And so if somebody wanted to get into this industry, let's say they needed to work the job first to learn the industry, right? What could they expect to be paid working a job like this?
Are you talking like high school kids maybe looking for like an internship opportunity with hopes to be hired down the road or?
No, somebody that's actually entered into a paid position with the company, but they're just starting in the industry.
I would say if they have no experience and they're being trained and they're learning as they go, probably, $15 to $17 an hour.
Okay.
If they pick it up really quickly, 90 days, you'll get a substantial raise. But if they do have experience, you're starting to look between 20 and 30 an hour. I know that's the industry standard. Our pay dynamic is a little bit different. I'm not really sure, to be honest, how other companies do it. But we also offer a lot of kickbacks for them on sales and stuff. But we're not asking them to go out there and push sales every day either. We're still asking them to be honest. But hey, if this is what's needed, you're getting a cut of this.
Right. Yeah, no, that's great because I know some businesses, they don't really reward their employees at all for, upselling a different piece or a service or something like that. They don't receive any type of reward for that.
Exactly. And that's where the cross training does have its pros and cons. I don't know how all of them feel, if one of them likes service better than, installs, but it provides everybody kind of an equal opportunity, with the exception of my husband, who is really our only primary salesman. We're not going to have a salesman. All you guys are going to be out there because we want you to have that experience.
So how would you say then, if that's the case, what and I know being a multi-generational business probably helps, but what's the number one way that you guys acquire customers typically?
Like you said, we are multi-generational, so we were blessed to have a pretty large existing clientele when we did acquire the business. And a lot of those people are still with us today. Some of those people aren't with us today. Some of them didn't like the change that we started to implement that benefited more than less, and that's okay. But the ones that are on board with it, referrals, word of mouth have been our biggest pillar, on top of Google reviews. Google reviews are brought up more than I can count here lately, especially in the last 2 years after implementing another software, which is called Podium. Podium, you can text message with clients pretty easily. That's a really good way for Angela to juggle reaching out to our 500 and almost 600 maintenance contract customers twice a year. But it's also sends them a message as soon as we're done with the work, asking them for a Google review with a link. And all they got to do is click it.
Would you say that most of your customers are, is it mainly commercial, residential? What's your split there?
We're about 85% residential, about 15% commercial.
Okay.
We have a huge commercial client that came to us with the generational transition that we're very grateful for. We have several other commercial clients that are a little smaller, and we have a lot of general contractors where we don't do a whole lot of new construction. We do enough through them. So residential really is where we thrive.
Okay.
If we come across a big commercial job for somebody outside of the commercial properties that we already handle, if it's something we think we can handle, we go look at it. If it's not, I have a referral for another local HVAC business that I know thrives on commercial HVAC work. They're still local, family-owned and operated, somebody that I can testify their work, somebody that I trust to send someone to that'll do a good job, that I know will be able to handle it properly and quicker.
Yeah. So you mentioned, I'm picking up on things that become a pattern in the conversation. The first was communication. Now it's trust, right? And I know Google reviews have been very popular. I think they're still popular consumer side, but we are starting to see the emergence of an issue with all reviews. There have been some research studies done over the last year or two that indicate over 30% of online reviews are fake, and fake reviews are estimated to cost 1.7 or 1.07 trillion to consumers by 2030. And the issue is so bad that over 54% of consumers do not trust online reviews at all anymore when they're selecting a product or a service provider across the board. There's a problem, I think, especially in the age of AI, because people are making now, the videos people will take with their phone, a testimonial, UGC, we call it user-generated content. You can make it with AI.
Okay.
And even before that, there were services you could go online and you could pay somebody $50 to make you a video testimonial. You send them a script, they make a video testimonial. And in our industry, it happens all the time, which is more marketing, automation, media, things like that, where you'll just see all of these testimonials on a website and they're all fake. Somebody just went and bought them all. And so it's good to hear that the reviews are still driving business for you guys. I'm curious if that's something that you've thought of, though, or something that you've run into being an issue, or if the Google reviews are still going strong for the business.
The Google reviews are organic. I don't know hardly anything about this AI stuff. I just got Chat GPT, the paid version, 2 months ago. It's changed my life, but I'm still learning how to use that. But I will say with this Podium integration, I get an email as soon as somebody leaves a Google review.
Right.
And it just says the customer's first name and their last initial. And 9 times out of 10, I'm a weirdo. I've got the schedule memorized in my head most days.
Right.
So it lines up with when the service was done. The other thing that I think you can look at on our reviews, you're not going to see a whole lot of photos. You're just going to see people just handwritten reviews. And I think that is also proof that they're organic. So I really don't think that many of our reviews, if any, are fake. I could be wrong, but that would be a question for my SEO girl.
Yeah, no, and I don't think that's probably an issue for you guys. I know what has happened for some businesses is that like a scam company will send fake reviews to a business. And the FTC has actually implemented penalties of up to $53,000 per violation.
Wow.
And which is not like a batch of fake reviews, it's every individual fake review.
Does the affected business get the kickback on that?
Yes. So what these scam companies will do is they'll put, 5, 10, 20 fake reviews on a profile, and then they'll call and they'll be like, hey, they'll act like a consumer and say, I know this is fake because of X, Y, Z, I'm going to report you to the FTC or something. Or they'll just call and be direct and say, hey, there's fake reviews on there, because you can't delete Google reviews.
No, you can't. You
Right.
have to go through a whole intricate process
Exactly.
of like contesting them and
Right.
this and that.
And so they'll threaten them and say, if you don't pay us X amount of money, then we're going to report you to the FTC.
Yeah.
And of course, some businesses are smart enough to not do that, and
Right.
they have lawyers and they know how to handle the situation. But still, if the FTC does see that because they receive a report, it can put the business under a spotlight. I mean, it still becomes a huge issue. Even if you're going to win at the end of the day, you still have to deal with the problem.
Yeah.
And what we have also noticed is businesses like you that have tons of great, real, organic reviews from customers, it's harder to stand out now because there might be another company with a similar number of reviews that are fake. Yeah. So people don't know what to trust anymore on the consumer side. And that actually inspired me because there was no solution for this, and it's really bad in the marketing industry. Inspired me earlier this year to start a certification body where what we do is we reach out directly to every customer a business has worked with in the last year, and we verify their identity, their transaction with the business, and that they actually got the result that they paid for.
Gotcha.
And so there's no other service that does that right now.
Yeah. And
But
that's something we kind of do on a daily basis anyway. We've got that caller ID. So when people are calling in, especially if we're reviewing the history, we see they haven't used us in several years. We're double checking all that information.
Right.
Is this still your address? Is this the record that you have the last time we were there? Is this still your phone number? This and that, just to keep things up to date, because number one, we want to make sure it's accurate, but we all know number two, I want to get paid.
Yeah,
and we will.
absolutely. Right.
But on that note, I can honestly say I can't even count on one hand how many negative reviews that we have. And those ones, people have threatened that they're going to leave them. And I'll never forget the first one that happened. And I was so upset about it. I just engulfed it. And my mother-in-law was like, look at the ratio of the good ones to the bad. Let them leave it. Let people see that we are not perfect. Yeah. And I think that is a good thing.
Right.
But on the other hand, I have had somebody who is no longer a client of ours. Because here's a big thing about us. We are advocates for our staff. We expect them to treat people with a certain standard, and we expect that respect and reciprocation. And he said, I'm in all these local Facebook groups, which so am I. I'm going to blast you guys. And I said, I'll be looking forward to it. 15 minutes later, he did. He posted anonymously. And next thing you know, the post was down in an hour because all my clients just started going to bat for us and saying how it was untrue and this and that. So the reviews, maybe they're organic, maybe they're not. I think all of ours are. But if somebody does come with negative things to say, your reputation will speak for itself. Absolutely.
I love that. That's amazing that you had an army of happy clients behind you that willing to defend you. And you can't do that if you're not providing a service worthy of that.
I was
that really
crying.
shows.
I was like, oh my God, our customers are the best. I love them so much.
We had a business with RBV that went through something similar. It was almost like a fake review bomb, almost. Tons and tons of people. They literally went viral. They were on the news and all kinds of things for something that was not the way that it was being portrayed. And that first 24 to 48 hours was really rough.
Yeah.
And then, all of the customers that know the family, that know the business, started to come to bat for them. And then it went viral in a good way.
Yeah.
A bunch of media outlets on their side started talking about it and supporting them. So
I cover my bases. So
Yeah.
trust and believe, I screenshotted that and I uploaded it to his profile for the day that he tries to come back and says he's sorry. And be like, I don't think so. Sorry.
So trust is what can help you get through all of those different things. And you can only build that trust if you're actually out there delivering that quality service.
Yeah. And I think just being secure in knowing your intentions too. Like I've really gotten to know all my guys well. They're good people. They have good intentions. They have a heart of gold. And I think when that comes into play, it's very hard for people to deny qualities like that. Mm-hmm. So like when the bad review thing happened, I'm sitting there awake at night thinking, what did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. Why is this happening? Well, you can't reflect on that. All you can do is take a look at it, learn from it, and just keep moving forward. Right. I mean, what's it going to do harping on it and dwelling on it?
Absolutely.
It's only going to slow you down.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it never changes the outcome. It just changes how you feel during the process.
Absolutely.
You can either feel positive or negative, but either way, it's not going to change the outcome.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and this guy had something derogatory, very derogatory to say about one of my employees and thought he was going to get away with it. And I appreciate the opportunity for the business, but again, we're a cross-trained staff. You're not going to get the same person every time. You're going to get who's available because they are all equal. They all do phenomenal work, and I expect you to treat them all equally with respect because I know each and every one of them and their character will do that for you.
That tells me a lot, too, about, I think, why this company has been able to have such multi-generational success is because it sounds like you take very good care of your team as well. And I think that even beyond taking good care of your customers, if you don't take good care of your team, the business will fall apart from the inside.
I agree completely. I'm not afraid to say usually they are, but the customer is not always right. And I can't tell you how many places that I worked where the customer was always right and the employees' feelings were neglected. We never want our staff to feel like that. As long as, they didn't do something to warrant it, then, we're going to handle it. But I think just being there for your team like that. I'll never forget a restaurant I worked at went to bat like that for me one time when I was bartending, and the lady wasn't even that out of line. They kicked her out. And I was just like, I don't think that's necessary, but I really appreciate how you go to bat for your people. But they recognize that I was good to them, and they're going to be good to me. And I think that goes a long way with people.
Yeah.
And I think nothing worse is when you have one kind of toxic employee in the mix of things that continues to get rewarded. There's nothing that's going to drive away your authentic, good employees faster. And I'm sure you can agree, and you may have experienced that yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you brought up that specific example. It sounds like there's probably a reason you brought that specific example up. Have you had an experience?
We have experienced that in the past, and that was many, many years ago. And once that person was gone, I mean, the dynamic went right back to the way that it had been before, and just continued to grow stronger. Because sometimes people are so afraid of not being profitable, of not being successful or losing jobs, because they're willing to tolerate these demands from these customers that just aren't always attainable.
Right.
And it's okay to not be afraid to do what's best for your company. Be afraid that they might say something bad about you because you didn't want to do the work. Well, we would have been in bed with you a lot longer and suffering and probably losing more money down the road if we hadn't.
Right, right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so this opens up a can of worms for me that I'm very curious about because, stepping into this role, it's not what you expected to do. It's something that even though you had the education to support it and everything 9 years ago, this was probably newer to you stepping into business leadership. Yeah. So have there been in that journey any mistakes that you made that stick with you as something that actually became a strong learning experience?
On my side of things, something I learned a long time ago is less is more. Stop talking so much, which is funny for me, and start listening a little more. But truly, when you're on the dispatching side, you're the first line of fire, right? You're the one that's going to set the tone for everything. So when I was getting more and more familiar, I'd start to almost speculate what I thought might be going on and number one, I thought maybe I was either costing us jobs, or number two, I have a really pissed off customer because I think your drain line's clogged, but really you have a bad evaporator coil. So now where I thought you're looking at $190, you're looking at $1,200. So my job is not to diagnose the problem. My job is to leave that to the technicians. They're the ones that are trained and paid to do that. My job is to be friendly, get all the information that I can get for them to capitalize on everyone's time and keep it moving. I set clear expectations up front, and we keep it moving. And so that's something I'm still really cognizant about today on every phone call or every interaction, because I don't certainly want to be the reason for speculating something that I have no idea about. On the flip side, my husband, I think, realized early on, when he brought me in, he was doing everything himself. He was taking the phone calls. He's in the field. He's contacting maintenance customers. He's trying to keep up with the billing. He's trying to keep up with paying the bills. It was taxing. So when I came in, I started holding people accountable to our 30-day billing policy period. The bill's due in 30 days or you're getting a late fee. Well, a big customer at the time had a real problem with me contacting them and politely informing them it was overdue and of these policies. And my husband made me apologize. And then the guy said some nasty words about me. And long story short, that was a good thing that happened, because it made him and I slow down and start to connect on the same page. And that was early on. And so now I know that we have clear expectations, and he supports me doing that. If they're past due, call him. Keep calling until you get an answer. Do whatever.
Yeah. I'm curious about like the practicality of that. How did that situation end up working out? Because the same business mentor has called it the golden handcuffs before. That every now and then we have like a really big client that we want to serve, and sometimes we'll step a little bit outside of what our standard process or procedure is, and it can ultimately end up breaking that relationship down, breaking the business down as a whole. So how did that scenario end up? What was the decision?
So I think the decision was to part ways on their end, and I don't want to harp on it too much because we really like these people. And let's fast forward to today, almost 10 years ago. Like, we're still good. We're now friends again, have a good relationship with them. But at the end of the day, this too, people, they know when they're not paying their bills. So when they act shocked or all mad when you're contacting them for something they agreed to beforehand, because we don't do any work unless we run it by the customer first and they know how much to expect. And they sign off on it. Maybe not always hand sign off on it, but verbally agree upon. That is a clear standard. We expect that on each and every call. And the times that we've had problems with people contesting it versus not, but people know when they're not paying their bills. Yeah. So that was something that has made me grow stronger too. This is our money. We deserve it. We have bills to pay too. They agreed to this, and it's not my fault that they're not paying it on time. Yeah. So they're not going to let me think that it's my fault or make me feel bad about it.
No, I love that, because I think that for most, especially local businesses or small businesses in general, they're built predominantly on relationships. And it can become very scary as an owner when you are trying to scale the business. Sometimes the bottleneck can become how involved you are in those relationships, because it can create issues like that. It can create just capacity and bandwidth issues as a whole. You can only talk to so many people, manage so many relationships.
And I will say back then too, I learned a long time ago, you can say anything to anyone. It's all about how you say it.
How you say it, yes.
But back then I was just doing what I thought was right, but maybe I did handle it the wrong way. But emotions were high on all sides, on all parties' sides. And so now, hindsight 2020, I've learned so much more in how to handle it better, and that's key right there too.
Have there been any moments of uncertainty for you in the business, or has it always just been like, I know this is what we're going to do, I'm going to do, et cetera, or has that feeling not always been there?
Our faith is very strong in God. I mean, without him, we would have absolutely nothing. And in every uncertain time, which habitually for us being an HVAC contractor, that's usually the first couple months of the year for us. Last year, I thought we had it down. I thought we broke the cycle. This year, it's like we took a step back, and that was really hard because, again, I'm analyzing everything that we've worked so hard to implement last year. Where did we go wrong? Well, I think we're back up to speed, but figuring out how to keep it consistent and keep it going year-round is tough. I don't think we're the only ones that experience this, though. That slower time of the year, like January through March. Everyone's coming off the holiday high, right? Like, let's spend all this money over the holidays, myself highly included. And then nobody's really thinking about it while we're having that nice spring weather until it starts to get really, really hot. Then we're back up and running again. We're going full throttle, full speed. There's some hard sacrifices that just need to be made in times like that. I hate for my employees to hear this because I don't, try to share things like this, but there were a couple weeks, where we had to skip paying ourselves just to make ends meet. And again, I could not figure out why, like what is happening. But now I think we got a better handle on it, and it's just making sure we're monitoring all of that in the future to keep that consistency.
Yeah. So if you were training other HVAC owners that might be listening or people wanting to go into the HVAC business, what would you say your solution or approach to dealing with the seasonality of the business?
Your reporting and your tracking. We go numbers mean something to me, but not everything. That's more my husband's department. Now, Excel sheets and tracking, I'm your girl. So I give reports every week, every month on where we're at versus last year. I have Excel sheets that are tracking our closing rate, which is, how many estimates you're giving versus how many jobs you're winning. If you're not within a certain percentage there, then either your prices are too low or they're too high.
Right.
If your average sales price is not within that same kind of range, same thing, you're pricing too low or you're pricing too high. So then let's cross-reference that with our materials costs. Let's cross-reference that with our labor cost, our gas mileage, our overhead, everything that makes up our overhead. Then you'll identify the problem. You don't always have to raise your prices, but sometimes with the economy the way it is, you do. And you need to kind of evaluate where that needs to happen, or if that doesn't, where are we falling short on the other side?
Yeah. Being in the marketing space for 8 or 9 years, my approach was always just let's make the business more money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's just drive more revenue, and I do think.
But how are we doing that?
Exactly, and
We're
I
just
do think
spending
that
money,
can be
hoping we can get a return.
Right, and I do think that can't more money coming in is always a good thing.
Yeah.
But then when I switched about 2 years over, and I say switched, but I entered into the private equity space. So more so small business acquisitions, looking at the finances, things like that. Whole new world for me. I started to realize how much money there was to be, and I can't think of a better word for it. It sounds so sensational, but there's so much money usually in a business that can be unlocked when you look at the numbers.
Yeah.
Exactly like you're saying. When you look at your ratios, your percentages, your margins, your expenses, there's usually such a profound amount of money in almost every business that you don't have to generate more revenue to earn more.
Right.
You can unlock that revenue within your business just by changing a few certain things, getting rid of this team member that really doesn't need to be there, changing these expenses you don't need, raising the price here, lowering a margin percentage here. There are so many different things you can do within a business.
Yeah.
Were there any of those things that you've found in the last few years that were unlock moments where you were we should have been doing this differently the whole time?
Yeah. We tell our guys all the time, no matter the raise we give you, let me paint a picture for you this year. If you upsell this many Wi-Fi thermostats or an air purification light or a surge protector for your outdoor unit, look what that does to your sales price, but look what that does to your commission too. Mm-hmm. And when you add it up, even if I give you a $3 raise, you're still coming out better just by offering one minor thing on every job that you sell.
Right.
That, and then this is going to sound crazy, but we've never really taken deposits up until this year on large jobs.
Okay.
And we started implementing that this year. Nate and I felt, and our service manager, Brooks, we all felt that was a good idea because, number one, everybody does it. I think we were a little scared that we would lose jobs if we tried to ask that of people, but it's almost expected in a trade like ours and contracting and this and that. I remember when I built my house, I had to put money up front for everything right and left. Yeah. Nobody really has a problem with it. And if they do, then we work something else out. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But I think having a deposit up front has been monumental for us. Mm. It holds the customer accountable because they've committed to the job. They're not backing out last minute or they're rescheduling. And it also makes things kind of speed line for us too and helps us kind of stay ahead financially versus falling back into that cycle of how are we going to make ends meet.
So are there any common myths that you hear about being a business owner or running a business that when you hear it's just the one that's your biggest pet peeve? You're like, oh, if people only knew.
You own a business. You have it all.
As in all the problems?
You're rich. Hold on a second. First of all, I'm in debt for the next 30 years of my life substantially. Yes, we were able to build our house. We're very blessed, but we've worked our butts off for that and have saved money and put it aside. No, we don't have it all. You know, Nate and I were both in a wedding last weekend, and the wedding started at 4 o'clock. At 2 o'clock, I'm helping one of my technicians navigate a customer that's bugging the crap out of him. I'm about to put my bridesmaid dress on. It does not stop. Work does not end when you come home. It is your responsibility 24/7. And then throw in a child into the mix of things, because we have a 5-year-old. We do our best to separate work and home life, but as a business owner, sometimes you just can't. You can pick and choose how you do it, and you can be mindful about it, but there's still always in the back of your mind, you don't want to take time away from playing with your son, but sometimes you have to take that phone call, because it's not just you or your business relying on it. It's all your employees underneath you that are counting on you for a job.
How do you balance that? I know people talk about work-life balance. I'm one of those people that's like, I don't think that's a thing. You know, it's whatever works for you. And I keep referring back to the same business mentor.
1,000%.
But he's big on whatever works for you works for you. You know, there are certain behaviors that people make a big thing out of. You know, you got to have the best morning routine to be a millionaire or whatever the case is. And he's like, when you look at the wealthiest people in the world, none of them have the same morning routine.
No.
None of them have the same diet. None of them go to the gym at the same. You do what works for you.
Yeah.
And he frequently shares this story about really extravagant house they bought with a big pool beside it. And
we don't have a pool.
He never used the pool, though. And somebody made fun of him and was like, you never used the pool. Like, why do you even have a pool? You paid so much extra money for this home because of the pool compared to other ones. You never use it. He said, yeah, I do. I use it every single day. And she was like, what do you mean? I've never seen you in the pool. He said, I use it every day when I walk by it, and I like how it looks.
Yeah. I mean,
that's what it means for me.
Pretty much it. Yep.
So I think it's definitely, you know, it's less of this perception of work-life balance of you need this percentage of work and this percentage of family time and this percentage of date nights or whatever it is. What do you think that balance looks like for you, though?
I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's what works for you. Number one, I think, obviously, if owning a business was easy, everybody would do it. Yeah. But I'm sorry, but I'm going to harp on me and my husband. Doing it with your spouse is a whole nother ballgame. We try really hard not to talk about work too much at home, but some days, because again, he's in the field so much and I'm in the office, some days we don't see each other but for 2 or 3 hours before we go to bed around dinner time if he makes it home for dinner. And I have no other time to talk to him about it because he's too wrapped up with the physical side of things throughout the day. And sometimes it's just 2 or 3 things that I need so I can go on with what needs to get done on my side, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to my son, I was doing everything by myself from 2017 until August of 2021. That's when my son was a year old. That's when Angela came in. I was finally like, I need some help, but it can't just be anybody. It's got to be a particular person who can really lend me some help, especially on the nights and the weekends when I'm not in the office. Well, she has really not just been a pillar to me, but to us. She has streamlined things. And she gives me that capability to be a mom when I'm not at the office without often feeling like I'm having to do both.
Yeah.
She gets it. She just handles it.
This might be a good time to pause then, because before we started, before the cameras were officially rolling and everything, you said, and I always like to ask so the audience knows if there's anything that they want to talk about or stay away from. And you said, I really want to make sure we bring up one thing.
I do.
And you said, that's my staff.
And I'm going to scroll to my notes on them. Absolutely.
Our team. And I told you, I said, I think that's the first time that a business owner has said, I want to make sure that I give a huge shout out to my staff because they're the reason that I'm here.
I didn't think I'd get emotional because that doesn't happen a lot these days. But yeah, I want to make that abundantly clear if I haven't already. I'm so thankful for this opportunity today, Sean. Thank you for having me. But this company I represent is about so much more. So I just want to shout out everybody at my work family. I want to shout out first my in-laws and my husband. Thank you for believing in me and even just giving me this opportunity. Thank you to Angela for trusting me and being my rock, and my soul sister inside and out of work. You make it possible, like I just said, for me to truly be present and active in my most important role, which is mom. And then I want to say thank you to my boys, Brooks, Hunter, Bobby, Larry, Rob, Ethan. You guys are the heart and soul of this company right alongside Angela. I could not be more proud of y'all and the brotherhood that you guys have formed. My guys are best friends outside of work. and inside of work. Sometimes they fight like brothers. You know, we go about our day, but the sky's the limit for all of you guys. I will protect you like my sons. I consider you my brothers. And finally, I just want to say thank you to Cecil and Marilyn Suggs. They're my grandparents. I don't even want to say in-law because we don't really use that term in my husband's family. But we have the honor of carrying on this legacy because of the foundation that you guys built it on. And I'm so proud and honored that I get to be a part of all of it. And I just hope we're making you proud.
Thank you so much for sharing that on our show. I think that's valuable for our audience to hear that. And I know it's going to be very, very valuable for your team to hear that from you.
I hope so. I just want them to know they're doing a good job every single day. They're doing everything right. They would give their all for us. My husband saw something on Instagram the other day that says a strong company has an owner that embodies the work ethic of an employee and employees who embody the vision of an owner. And I don't think there's anything that I've ever heard that's more applicable to our business structure.
Everything we just talked about, you know, the team, the family, the business, all of these things, if it were to disappear tomorrow, what do you think you and your husband would do to restart?
I think we'd invest in each other and we would figure it out because we always do. Then I think what we would do is once we figured out what we were going to do with no money essentially and maybe just our hands-on skills and our charismatic charm, we'd go find one customer to let us do something for them for free, give it our best effort, let them tell somebody else about us, and then continue to treat each and every customer that followed the same exact way as the first one where we didn't make $1.
Yeah.
And I know we'd be okay.
And that's the position that so many people that are watching this are in, similarly in starting a business, is I've got to figure out what I want to do and what works and then get that first customer. Like you said, even for free, show up and do a good job, do quality work, and that word of mouth will spread. Those reviews will spread.
Yeah, because people will figure out very quickly if you are in it for the money or if you're in it for the passion.
Right. And like you said, it's okay to say, yeah, we want to get paid. Absolutely. That's why everybody's doing what we're doing.
Absolutely.
But if I'm going to allow someone to pay me for the work I'm doing, I'm going to make sure it's good work.
And I, personally, the entrepreneurs and business owners that I know that I believe are the most successful are not the ones with the most in their bank accounts. It's the ones that are still actively involved that I see portraying that care and that compassion to their customers. There's a reason why they started it in the first place.
Right. Absolutely. What's something that you wish you knew before you got started in business that you know now?
To know my place, but I didn't really know what my place was when it all started. I kind of felt like I had to handle so many different things, so my husband didn't have to. But it's not always my job to be the discipliner. It's not always my job to fix things if they're falling apart, but sometimes it is. So I think compartmentalizing the battles that are mine and that aren't, and I have to let the other battles be fought by who they belong to.
How do you do that? Like in the moment? Because like you said, it's not as simple as this is me, this is not me sometimes. Sometimes you have to be more so one thing, and then other times you need to be the opposite.
So if somebody calls and they're complaining about their bill, again, my guys might say, you know, I'm the B word sometimes because I'm so hard on them about making sure things are accurate. I can break down a price bill in my head based off of what it is. We do not do itemized pricing, by the way. We do flat rate billing. We always have.
Okay.
So a lot of people ask for that. I'll give it to them over the phone, but I will not put it in writing. That's just our company standard and how we do things. If somebody has a technical question that I cannot answer, I'm not going to pretend like I can. That's where I'm going to save everybody headache and back and forth and stress, and I am going to have my guy that was there call the customer directly. It might slow them down a little bit, but again, communication. I tell the customer he's in the field. When he has time, he will call you to discuss this. And that really has made life, I think, a lot easier for everybody, especially giving them that time and that grace period to get them to call them back at like the end of the day. It doesn't need to be done right now at 12 o'clock while you're on an install. Yeah.
This one might be a little bit more of a fun question. Hopefully it is, right? What's the strangest job story that you guys have had? Is there one that stands out as like, this is the craziest one that we've done?
Well, we didn't do it. It was just a really funny request, but you know, we had one of our typical Southerners, which I'm kind of a Southerner, but this is how we talk to them. I was just wondering, I bought a new house down the road, and I need y'all to come to my house, pick up my AC unit, and go put it at the other one. I'm like, dude, that thing's 22 years old. I don't think so. I know y'all won't be liable for it. I'm like, sir, I don't think it works that way. Your new house is double the square footage.
So he wanted to take the unit from his smaller old house and just put it on his new one.
Literally said, all y'all got to do is bring a trailer and the gauges and a couple tools and just haul it off and hook it back up. Again, I'm not the one in the field, sir, but I think there's a little more to it than that.
Yeah. So
Plus,
you guys
if I put
did
that thing on the
not.
trailer, it's probably going to fall apart.
So you did not pick that one up, obviously.
No. we
What
did
about
not.
one that you guys have actually done that was also maybe the request wasn't crazy, but maybe it was even just a crazy thing that happened while on the job?
I did have a lady call in the middle of the night, and I don't think I realized she wasn't really all there. And it was 3:00 in the morning. She's like, "There's a ghost outside of my house, and I need you guys to come take care of it." And I wanted to be like,
Wow.
"It's 2 a.m, and we're not the Ghostbusters," And she's making the noise for me, and I'm like, "It's your air conditioning unit." She goes, "You mean somebody's been stealing Freon from me again?" And I'm like, I can send somebody to check it tomorrow. No, there is a ghost here and it needs to be gone. I'm like, then you might need to look up a spiritual healer. I don't.
There have been times where sometimes the unit does sound like a ghost in my house too.
Yeah, the squealing. Yeah.
All right, so we always end every episode with a speed round of 4 simple questions. If you can answer for yourself and your husband, that would be even better. But maybe we just need to wait for him to come back on another episode.
No, I think I read through the speak.
Okay, are you a morning person or a night owl?
I'm sickly both. He is neither.
I am sickly both as well.
Yeah.
What's your favorite tool or piece of equipment?
I don't know about his. It's probably this new flamethrower thing he just bought today that helps clean out a drain pan or something. Mine is my Frost Buddy, which is like a insulated koozie for coffee.
Okay, nice. What's your go-to pump-up song in the morning?
Whoop, There It Is by Tag Team or anything off the K-pop Demon Hunters soundtrack.
Interesting. Okay.
My son can do the entire soda pop routine. It's so good. So, if Netflix is listening, I would love for y'all to look at him for an audition.
And last thing, what is one thing that you do every day to stay on top of your game?
My husband likes to sit in his truck and read his devotionals every morning when he pulls into the office. Takes about 20 minutes of quiet time for himself. I like to feel out my staff and feel out the energy, and I like to hype them up if I can tell one of them's got something going on. Just give them a little, re-encouragement or something.
Yeah. Well,
That's what makes me feel good.
We usually end after the rapid fire questions, but you mentioned the devotional, and earlier you mentioned that your faith is very important to both of you.
Absolutely.
And we're very open about faith on the show. We have so many conversations about faith. Is there anything that you wanted to say about how your faith has played an integral role in your relationship and building the business as well?
Well, I think one of the questions was, how did you make it through the hardest times? And there is no other explanation than God. I mean, to just be able to wake up and just keep going when you feel like you're at a dead end or a brick wall, that's God. I mean, he's not going to let you fail. You were made for a purpose on purpose. It sounds cheesy, but it is so true. We all have a purpose. And I know that the path that he has set before us was meant for us. And there's going to be bumps along the way. It's not our job to question it. We just have to prevail through it.
Yeah. Is there a local church you want to shout out?
So I'm going to be honest. We actually don't have a church right now. We keep saying we're going to go get back into it because I was raised traditionally Catholic,
Okay.
But Nate was Southern Baptist. We embody the same religious values, though. Yeah. So we would really we have a couple that we really want to try and get back into, and we're looking at a few that have a good Sunday school program for our son as well.
Yeah. I always try to connect to a biblical story when a guest shares something, and you shared getting through those times where it feels like maybe nothing's working out. That reminds me of the story of the prophet Elisha. When he went to the woman who was needy, and rather than just giving her something, he tells her to go gather jars from all of her neighbors. And so she goes, and he says, "Do not gather few." And so she's going around to everyone, and she's gathering all of these empty jars and bringing them back to her home. For what, right? It's like, I'm in need. You didn't just give me something. I'm gathering all these empty jars. There's nothing inside of them. And sometimes our life can feel that way where we're going through the motions or we're struggling and it seems like we're gathering empty jars. Yeah. But it's because she was preparing for a miracle that she wasn't aware of. That was when, the prophet told her to pick up that jar of oil and now start pouring it into the other jars. And the limit to how much oil she was able to get was just how many jars she had gathered. And so I think when we get tested in our faith, whether that's in relationships, in business, is when we can continue to gather empty jars. When we can continue to be obedient and do the thing that we know we're supposed to be doing, even though we don't see the oil yet, because we're just being prepared for a miracle. And the more consistent and faithful we can be in that process, the greater the miracle we're going to be able to handle.
I love that you shared that because this isn't within our business, but our family could really use a miracle right now. And I love that you shared that. So I'm going to share that with the person that needs it, that has been strong and resilient through it all. But I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, again, I'm embarrassed to say we aren't actively going to church, but faith is a huge core value. It's our foundation of our household, of our marriage, of our business. And, we praise God. We will be loyal disciples to him through the end of time, no matter how we do it.
That's amazing. Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with the audience, your message to the world before we end the podcast today?
My message to the world is, again, it's going to sound cheesy, but believe in yourself and be kind. I think that if you are truly a good person with integrity and honesty and a pure heart, and you do the right thing at all times, and you are just a relentless, resilient worker, there's nothing that you can't do. So find a way. You will make a way. There's literally a song that moves me anytime I'm having a really hard time. It's called Make a Way by Hillsong United. Put that on, cry it out for a second, and then get back to business.
Yeah, love that. Put that on, cry it out, and get back to business.
Yeah, have your moment. It's healthy. Yeah. You got to. You can't have it together all the time. Value yourself, too, because I wish I was as fearless younger as I am now. I used to go into the room and be the most intimidated by the most powerful person in the room. Now I gravitate towards those people because I know I'm one of the most powerful people in the room, because I know that I'm secure in myself, that I'm a good person, and that I work hard.
That's amazing. Well, I've learned a lot from this interaction. I love the emphasis on communication, on trust, on doing quality work. And it's very inspiring to see how you can build a multi-generational business by focusing on, like you said, the old school values, really locking in on those and making sure that those human touch points are still there. Because all of us value those same things. We value communication, clear expectations, people we can trust, quality work. And it sounds like those are all the things that you focus on, and it really challenges and reminds me to continue focusing on those core values, even when the world's going through all the craziness and evolution it is now.
And I mean, much like being a parent, we don't know what we're doing. We're probably not doing it right. We don't know if we are, but we're giving it our best shot. We're showing up every day, and we're keeping those core values at the center. And I think that's all that you can do. Right. And the rest will kind of unfold from there.
Well, Sammy, thank you so much for coming on the show.
I enjoyed it.
I appreciate
so
your time.
much.
This has been another episode of the Beyond Founder podcast, and hopefully we'll have you with your husband back with us next time.
I would love that.
That would be wonderful.
Yes.
Join us next time for that episode in the future and whoever else we have on our next episode. Have a great day.